You're walking home in the dark, and out of nowhere, every hair on your arm stands up. You don't know why yet. You just know something's wrong. That reaction, the one you can't control, the one that happens before your brain even catches up, is roughly 2 million years old. It didn't come from nowhere. It came from a very long time when your ancestors were not the scariest thing in the room. Not even close. So here's the question tonight. Who was actually afraid of who back then? Were early humans hunting the animals, or were the animals hunting us? And when exactly did that switch, if it ever fully did? Because the answer isn't as simple as we won, and once you see the actual evidence, it gets a lot stranger than that. Let's start with the part almost nobody expects. For a huge stretch of human history, we were not the predator in the story. We were the prey. In 1924, a fossil skull was pulled out of a limestone quarry in South Africa, belonging to a young hominin now known as the Taung Child, roughly 3 million years old. For decades, scientists studied the skull without noticing something that was staring right at them. In the 1990s, researchers re-examined the damage on it and found puncture marks matching the talons of a large bird of prey, almost certainly a giant eagle. Not a lion, not a wolf, a bird, snatching a small hominin child right off the ground, the way modern eagles still do to monkeys in parts of Africa today. That single skull cracked open an entire research direction. Anthropologists Robert Sussman and Donna Hart spent years compiling evidence across the fossil record, and in 2005 published their case under a title that says it all: Man the Hunted. Their argument wasn't just that early humans occasionally got eaten. It was that predation pressure, real, constant, from leopards, hyenas, giant eagles, and extinct saber-toothed cats, shaped early human behavior at a fundamental level. Why did our ancestors travel in groups? Why did they stay so alert to sound and movement? Why do modern humans, to this day, startle at rustling in the dark faster than almost any other stimulus? Sussman and Hart argued, you're looking at inherited fear, built by millions of years of very good reasons to be afraid. So if that's true, when did it flip? Because clearly, something changed. The honest answer is gradually and then all at once. Fire helped. Tools helped. But the real turning point was cooperation. Our specific talent for hunting in coordinated groups, communicating danger, and building weapons that let a slow, clawless, fangless primate take down animals many times its size. And once that shift happened, something remarkable occurred on the other side of the predator-prey relationship. A lot of the animals had absolutely no idea it had happened yet. This is where the story gets genuinely unsettling. When humans began migrating into new continents, first Australia, then the Americas, they encountered megafauna, giant ground sloths, mammoths, saber-toothed cats, enormous flightless birds that had evolved for millions of years with zero exposure to anything like us. These animals had never seen a spear-throwing, coordinated, fire-using primate before. They had no evolved fear response for it at all. Paleoecologist Paul Martin proposed something called the Blitzkrieg hypothesis back in the 1960s, and decades of additional fossil evidence have only strengthened the timeline. In region after region, the arrival of humans lines up almost exactly with a catastrophic wave of megafauna extinction, often within a few thousand years, a blink in evolutionary time. Part of the reason these extinctions happened so fast wasn't just human hunting skill. It was that the animals didn't run. They had no learned fear of us at all, because there had never been a reason to develop one. We were, from their evolutionary perspective, an ambush nobody saw coming, because nothing like us had ever existed before. Imagine that for a second. An 8-ton ground sloth, standing its ground, mildly curious, completely unbothered, while something the size of a child approaches with a sharpened stick. That wasn't bravery. That was a total absence of fear. Because fear has to be learned or evolved, and there simply hadn't been time. So by this point in the story, humans went from prey to something new entirely. An animal other species had no evolutionary blueprint for at all. And that's genuinely strange on its own. But here's the part that most surprising twists in the whole video, because it's happening right now, not in some fossil record. In 2019, biologists Liana Zenet and Justin Surasi ran an experiment in Northern California using motion-activated speakers hidden near watering holes and trails, playing recorded sounds to wild animals passing by. Sometimes, the speakers played the growls and snarls of mountain lions. Sometimes, they played the barking of dogs. And sometimes, they simply played ordinary human voices, people casually talking, reading news reports, nothing aggressive at all. The animals, badgers, bobcats, deer, foxes, reacted to the calm human voices with more fear, faster flight, and longer avoidance than they showed toward actual apex predators. Not a scream, not a threat, just people talking normally. And it consistently outperformed the sound of a mountain lion as the single scariest thing in the forest. Zenet and a separate researcher, Chris Derrimont, have described humans functioning today as what they call a super predator, an ecological category unlike anything else on the planet. In a 2015 study, Derrimont's team found that humans kill adult prey animals at rates far exceeding any other predator species, disrupting population structures in ways lions and wolves simply don't. Combine that with Zenet's playback data, and the picture becomes almost eerie. Across ecosystems worldwide, animals appear to have learned extremely quickly on an evolutionary timescale that the human voice itself means danger, more danger than an actual predator standing in front of them. So somewhere between the Taung Child, killed by an eagle 3 million years ago, and a deer fleeing the sound of someone casually chatting on a hiking trail today, the entire relationship flipped, completely, and arguably overcorrected. We spent most of our evolutionary history being hunted. Then, for a brief and violent window, we encountered animals with no fear of us at all. And that absence of fear is part of why so many of them no longer exist. And now, we've become something so consistently dangerous that a huge portion of the animal kingdom doesn't just fear us, it's learned to fear the specific sound of us existing nearby, even when we're doing nothing threatening at all. That's the part worth sitting with. Fear, in evolutionary terms, isn't really an emotion. It's information, encoded into instinct because the alternative was extinction. The animals that survived contact with humans are, almost by definition, descendants of the ones who learned to be afraid fast enough. The ones that didn't learn in time are mostly gone. Which brings this back to that feeling on the dark walk home, the hair standing up on your arm before you consciously know why. That reflex isn't random, and it isn't really about you specifically. It's a very old, very deep inheritance from a time when the smart move, the only move that mattered, was reacting to danger before you had time to think about it. For millions of years, that fear kept your ancestors alive. And somewhere along the way, without most of the animal kingdom even having time to adjust, we quietly became the very thing that fear was originally built to detect.